So good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Robbins. I'm the worship leader at 1C, the Sanctuary, which is in Columbus, Nebraska. Glad you guys are here. I kind of challenged myself to present this year because over the last couple years, this whole thing with COVID, I learned how really blessed I am with the worship team I've got, and I kind of wanted to share some of the things that we do and get some time where I can get to know you guys and understand what is it you guys are going through, because we all have the same issues. I'm sure you're going to see that when you see some of the stuff I present. As far as who I am, child of God, that's the first thing. Good friend of mine yesterday started off her presentation that way. I think it's a good thing we all remember that's who we are and why we're here. She had a great presentation on bullying and how it affects people. And then she says, I want everybody to remember the very first thing is I'm a child of God, and that's who we are, and I'm glad that's who we are. I've been the worship leader at 1C in Columbus for the last 9 years. Funny story about how that came about. I actually went, now it's been 11 years ago, that we went there for the first time. And I wasn't even out of the service when somebody comes up and says, we know you play music. We'd like you to play with the church band. Okay, and then within a year, they had elections, and they nominated me and elected me for church president. And at the same time, right after that happened, our pastor says, I'm leaving. And he was the worship leader also. So that was one of those things where I kind of got thrown into both. Professional musician, 31 years experience. I play in 2 different groups in Nebraska regionally. Do the worship leading thing on the side, with it too, and it's fun. Was inducted in the Nebraska Music Hall of Fame this last year, which was really cool because a lot of people who are my heroes are in that group, and I never thought I'd be there. Again, play in 2 music groups. Self-proclaimed sci-fi nerd. You want to know something weird about me? That's it. It's my son, Harrison. He's sitting right here. He will tell you. I probably could talk your ear off about Star Wars and tell you everything about it. So, love it. But why are you guys here? That's what I want to know. First question. This is the biggest one on everybody's list. Do you struggle to find and retain musicians? Yeah. What is your biggest struggle with it? Because see, where I come from, our church, we're 90 miles from Omaha. Town's 22,000 people. If I were to show you who we have and you guys could hear it all, you'd be like, this is amazing. Big cities don't have this. Well, we're really blessed. I mean, we have a lot of really great people. But do you find that's your biggest struggle? Because the other one I saw, somebody sent me a message said, volunteer burnout. And that's hard too. And I'll tell you a weird story about our volunteers that just I don't understand sometimes. Are you here because you're trying to build a team? I've ran into some people where they're saying, we just don't have anybody. We have this guy and he plays guitar, or this keyboardist, and that's it. That's okay too. I've learned that. Do you guys have any kind of audition process you go through? I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Are you thinking about changing styles of music? I mean, how many of you guys play contemporary, like the stuff you hear on the radio? Oh, wow, okay, I did not expect that. So the rest of traditional type stuff, I would imagine. Here's how we do things. So I put on the thing that I'm the worship leader. And I put that at the very top. I'm the leader. I don't lead like most leaders do. I am not one of these people who's hard on people. I'm not forceful. It's not this way or no way. I've learned over the course of years in music that for me to get along best with musicians and to lead them the best, I give them some autonomy. So the first thing we always talk about is all band members have to audition. We're not an everyone gets to play group. Sorry if some of you guys do that. We had a lot of struggles with that. Actually, we had a lot of infighting, a lot of cancerous stuff. Harrison's shaking his head. He's like, yes, we did. We had band members who they would go back and forth with people in the groups. I won't play with this guy. I do not like him. I will not. And then if you stuck them together, oh boy, it was not a good thing. And that was before I had come along. I have given our band the power to make decisions. So like on a Sunday morning, if we struggle with something, we have the ability to say, give this song to somebody else. I don't want to sing it. I can't sing it. Or the times when you guys have heard it probably before where you say, okay, you know what, you're struggling with this. Can we move it to somewhere else, or can we switch a song out quickly, have a list of songs that we can do that with? They have that decision. Every musician and singer in our group has a say in what we do. So it's awesome. I get text messages during the week. This is the theme. Everybody gets the theme. They know what it is. I would like to do this song because it fits in this theme. Sweet. I don't have to pick it. I just have to pick where it goes. Yep, gladly. As a matter of fact, at the end, I'll try and find a piece of paper. If you guys want to give me your email addresses, I'll share all of this. Yeah, no problem. So they have a say in what we do, and a lot of times, and this is the part I love, because I don't mind criticism. I don't mind when somebody says, ooh, man, you don't really sound good singing that song. Thank you for telling me that. Because if I'm not comfortable with it, or if I hear something, I say, you know what? I'm going to let somebody else take that. And so our group, they're really good about that. But this is my favorite line of the whole thing. No egos. How many of you guys have dealt with musicians where it's like, oh boy, this guy's got an ego, and it's, we all have. But our group is so good about that, because the one thing that, and the next line is part of it, everything we do points to Jesus, no matter what it is. So when you're doing music, we say that's our big thing, is every song we perform must point us somehow to God or to Jesus. In worship, we are praising Him. It is not about me. And it's funny because I've had, and we all have, I'm sure, critics who come along and say, this is about a show for you. Nope, it's not. Everything I do is this right here, because I want everybody to have the same experience I had the first time I walked into our church, where I said, music is great. I love this. It's pointing me here. And I think that's one of the most important things we've done. Our story is, in the beginning, we had two separate worship teams. I went to a presentation yesterday where somebody said, you got all these musicians, you need to break them out into teams. We had that. We had a lot of infighting because of it. The teams were set with certain musicians, so like one week we would have one band, the next week we'd have a different band. They would fight if the first band had a song that they really liked and the second band came along and did it. Nope, that's our song. You can't do that. Oh, it was crazy. And my thing was always, no, this is Phil Wickham's song, and anybody can come along and sing it. But we had people who didn't believe that. It was, I learned this song, it's my song, you guys can't do it. I'm thinking, okay, that was hard. Nobody from one group played with another group, so you had this group and this group. You would never see this guy come over here and play with this group. That was tough for me, because my big thing has always been, you want to play with as many different people as you can, because you know what? Even though maybe this guy isn't at the same level as I am guitar playing, or maybe he's way above me, I'm going to pick something up from this guy. It just happens. It's like a sponge. And so I heard something yesterday where they said, we're going to do two different groups, and you're going to get, the bass and drummer is going to get really tight. I agree with that. That happens a lot. But at the same time, it's like, if I don't hear what this guy's doing, maybe he's got something he's playing that's really different and something I can pick up on. I want to go play with that guy. So that was a big thing. So again, because of all this, we had a lot of angst and animosity. People wouldn't talk to each other. Our one guitar player, who plays with us now, he wouldn't talk to our pastor, because our pastor one day had said, hey, my nickname is E, because his name was Elliot. And our guitar player's name was Eric, and everybody called him E. That became a source of infighting, to where our guitar player quit, because he's like, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to deal with egos. I'm like, oh my Lord. Okay, we're going to figure this out. All of that ruined relationships between a bunch of people in our church. And that was hard. And growth being impossible. So one of the things that we did was we came along and had a band meeting, and I said, here's the way we're going to do things. We're dropping the two different teams idea. We're going to go to one group. You're all going to jump in and out. So week to week, it may be you're playing, maybe not. And then the angst and animosity came from some of the singers we had fighting over positions. And we had to tell some of them that you need to serve somewhere else in the church, because this isn't going to work. We can't have that. We have to have cohesiveness. So where are we at today? And you can't see our picture. It's our band there. Trust. We trust each other now. That is probably the biggest thing that we struggled with for so long, was knowing that I can call somebody and say, let's talk about this weekend. Let's talk about what we're going to play. We have one core group, 5 musicians. It's our keyboard player, me, I play bass mostly, 2 singers, and our guitar player. We have drummers that switch out from week to week. My son here is one of them. We have, 3 drummers? 4 drummers? Yep, and then when I don't play bass, he plays bass for me. So that's a hard thing for some groups to have, is the rotating drummer thing, but it works for us pretty well. It's given us focus, so we try and do different things now, different music that we never thought we'd ever be able to try before. New music from is chosen by each member of the team. Again, we have this thing where we text each other all the time. Actually, we were doing it earlier too. I want to learn this song. Nobody fights over it, and it's crazy because you'd think, here's the newest song by Lauren Daigle, and we have one singer say, I want to do this. Nobody ever says, oh, I wanted to do that. It's always, okay, so we're going to do this song. She's got this song, and we're going to practice it, rehearse it. No big deal. Trust me, I know it's odd. We don't do things like most people do. But here's our challenges, and we can start talking about some of the stuff. Finding musicians. I know that's a big thing with us. It's hard to find bass players. In a town of 22,000, it's really hard. But we went, using pro musicians versus amateurs. So our keyboard player is our music school teacher for the Columbus Middle School, I guess it is, yeah. And when she came on board, it's like having your quarterback sitting on the bench. I was like, she's in the audience and she plays really, really, really well. I wonder if she'd want to join this. And I asked her, and a few weeks later she prayed on it and came back to us. She's a pro in the sense that she does this for the school system. She's not paid by our church. I'm paid by our church. I've played for long enough. I thought that would be a struggle. And I don't know how many of you guys are musicians in here? Oh, wow, okay, didn't expect that either. How many of you guys are paid? Okay. That is an argument I hear over and over on different forums. We don't want to pay our musicians. Okay, I get that. We don't want to bring pros in. Okay, that's a struggle sometimes too. Our one guitar player who plays with us occasionally is a pro, and when he came on board, I got a lot of flack because they were like, they're replacing every one of us with pros. No, we're not. There's no way I can do that because I know where your heart is. Your heart is for Jesus. I don't want to replace that. I'm bringing him in to help us sound better. He's an LCMS Lutheran, has been a long time. He's here to help us grow. And it's funny because over the course of the years, he's done that. My buddy Corey has taught us all different things, and it's like now we're seeing the fruit of it because everybody's working together, learning parts rather than just jamming the whole time. They're learning the parts you hear on a record.
So just to clarify that, so pro doesn't necessarily mean paid. So they may be a professional musician or a school teacher, whatever, but they're not paid, right?
Yeah, ours aren't. Yeah, no.
So there's
Yep. Yeah, we are all volunteer. Yep. Correct. And my biggest thing is I try and tell people, if you know somebody in your community who's a pro that would be interested in it, definitely vet them, make sure that they're what you would want. That's one thing that the audition process I'll talk about that we have helps with. But bringing somebody like that on board can help your team sound really good really quick. You just got to be careful that are they somebody who believes. I don't know that I'd put an atheist up on stage with us. You got to kind of vet that whole thing out a little bit. But every person I brought on who's been professional has been great. And they listen to the songs, come in. They've got their parts down now. We're just fine-tuning harmony or fine-tuning some of the other little rhythms. Another challenge. Sometimes we get guys who say, I want to do this song. And I'm like, can we really play that? I mean, we're talking 4 synthesizers on a record and 4 guitar parts, and it's not going to sound quite the same. Adam Countryman said yesterday in one of the sessions I was in, he says, you adapt at that point. Make the song your own. That's been a struggle for us big time because our one guitar player, Eric, who's he's a good buddy of mine, he's like, it doesn't sound like the record. There are 3 of us backing you up. It's not going to sound just like the record. I can't make it do that. But what I can tell you to do is make it your own. Make it breathe and live the way you want to. worship the other night here. How many of you guys got to go to that? I thought it was awesome. I thought I love it every year, but the very end where they were kind of doing some ad-libbing stuff, I'm sitting there going, this is what it's about. You're adapting it to who you have on that stage, and you are putting your best musician or singer or whatever out there, and it is just capturing what we're doing. This is totally cool, and that's what we tend to do. Another challenge is we don't have this as much. I know some other people do, where church leaderships or congregations don't support the praise team decision. Like where if they say, we want to do something like changing music style is one thing, but that's a bigger overall decision. But just they don't support what you're doing. We had that for a while where we would get questioned, hey, we really want to buy this mixing console because it'll help us with in-ear mixes. So the musicians can hear themselves. You don't hear, it's a silent stage. Why? Nope, we're not going to do that. And then comes a month later, the band is really loud if you sit in the front. Yeah, that's where the noise is coming from. We really need to do something about that. Yeah, okay, I proposed that already, but we'll go back and talk about it again. That can be a challenge. What are your greatest challenges? Anybody want to volunteer? What's that?
Finding musicians.
I
don't have like any musicians like this.
So where are you from?
Ames, Iowa.
Ames, Iowa. Oh, so you're not far from Des Moines either. I mean, college town. Have you gone to any of the colleges and talked to anybody, or?
So part of the problem is, like you're saying, the leadership in the church. They want the worship team to all be members of the church. We don't want somebody up front leading who's not part of the church, and we don't have musicians that are already members of the church.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, because like when we brought my buddy Corey on board, guitar player, he wasn't a member of our church. And ours is pretty open to the fact that if you can find somebody to play, maybe they'll become a member. I'm like, well, he's in a long-time LCMS Lutheran. I don't know if he's interested in it or not. But our thing has always been, let him serve. Somebody said yesterday, the greatest way to get millennials interested in the church is to take them on a mission trip. And I said, that seems odd. They're like, but they're hands-on people. I'm like, oh. So maybe the greatest thing is to find musicians and then train them up and then get them involved into other things. We've had a couple people in our church band that have done that. The other thing I like to do is I tell our church band people, I want to see you guys serve somewhere else in the church, not just here. Everybody sees us on a Sunday morning, whether it be live or live stream or whatever. Find a different way to serve. And I was thinking this morning, I'm like, I think everybody does that. And then I'm like, oh no, Eric doesn't. I'm like, oh no, wait, Eric does. Eric serves on the tech team when he's not working with the band. But everybody either teaches Bible studies or does big events and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But finding those people, I would start honestly with the colleges and just poke around and ask maybe, it seems weird, but call and say, do you know anybody that's looking for a place to play? Again, it seems odd, but we've had a lot of luck with just sticking our noses in other places where you would think, I'm not going to find anybody. One of the things that our church has done is partnered with a church in a town 15 miles away from us. And I made the comment that we're going to go in and do a contemporary worship service in the afternoons on a Sunday. Okay? Started off one Sunday, it was me and Harrison and another girl in our band. And we did a full band set. It was great. After that, it's just me. And I'm playing by myself. And I'm like, I'll get people to come out of the woodwork, I'm sure. My hope was within 90 days. It was within 30. Got a couple guys who said, well, I'd be interested in playing. Okay, cool. What do you play? Acoustic guitar. I'm like, sweet. So then we'd be two of us doing this. We actually had a family that has been doing our worship service now. They're going to do it tomorrow because I'm not back. But it's mom and dad and their 4 kids. And they get up and play. It sounds great. I'm like, okay. You just kind of got to reach out there and see. Maybe somebody's got an interest and you just don't know.
We had a family like that, and then the kids graduated. The parents switched churches.
Oh, really? we've had 2 of our members graduate, and I'm thinking they'll never be back, so this group will be down to, 4 or whatever. No, they come home on the weekends for it, so which is kind of fun. Any other thoughts? Musicians, I know, is the big one.
The argument for finding someone that's not a member is using that as an evangelism tool. Right.
Right.
You can
There you go.
come and play. Well, now they're hearing the message.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I'm trying to think. When I started playing in church, it would have been 2003 or 4, and that church was, we'll take anybody we can get. And I'm like, okay, oh, you play bass. Well, we don't have anybody who plays bass, so there's your spot. Burnout is real, can be real. Our group is different, and I don't know if I put this in the slideshow later on, but they love to serve. I'm the most blessed, probably worship leader in this room, because they will fight me if I say, well, I'm going to put somebody on this week. Why don't you take the week off? But I want to be there. I want to sing. I'm like, but you haven't taken any time off in a year. Well, I don't care. And so for me now, it's become, hey, you know what? If you're that interested in serving, maybe I can take off a week and go to best practices, and you can play for me. Yep, we'll do that. So, okay, that sounds cool. You guys ever heard of a SWOT analysis? We do that in manufacturing. That's one of our big things where I work. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. List out the strengths. What are your strengths in your team? Ours would be definitely like the no ego thing. Everybody loves to serve. Our team loves each other. They just, like I said, we text each other all the time. Our weakness right now is in the rhythm section. It's drums. It's finding people who to play. I said Harrison plays, Genesee plays occasionally. Drew, we have a college kid who comes home and plays. And then we have the drummer in one of the bands I play with. He'll get home from a gig 2 a.m. He'll be on the road at 6 and in Columbus by 7:15 because he loves to play and he loves the group that we play with. And so that's pretty cool. But that's been our biggest weakness, is finding drummers and bass players. And that's okay, because there's sometimes on a Sunday we'll pare it down and make it acoustic, and it'll just be what it is, and people love it. Now, that's another weakness, is not having people. Was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago? I had COVID, and another musician in our group had COVID, and so we're staying home, we're fine. And then one of our girls got sick, but it wasn't COVID. And so it was down to just one musician, our guitar player, Eric. Now, to know Eric, let's say, love him to death, he has no self-confidence. So when he gets up on stage, he would rather be, like they said at the worship the other night, he'd rather be in the box than he would preaching at a funeral. He just has no interest in it. So he calls me, he says, let's just do videos on screen and no live music. I'm like, we haven't done that in 10 years. Like, they were going to freak. And I get the call after the service was over from a bunch of people. Where were you at? I have COVID. Oh, okay. Well, it's really weird with just recorded music. Yeah, I get that. Totally get that. And then I got told after that, somebody goes, we're giving you guys a check for like $1,000 to figure out how to where we can recruit people and maybe pay them on a week when you guys aren't there. I'm like, that's odd, but okay. Okay, sounds great. Yeah, right, exactly. So for us, opportunities, there's all sorts. I mean, we do a lot of different things, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And the last one's threats. You know, what's the biggest threat? The biggest threat has been COVID for us. I mean, we just were so worried sick that we would all get sick at one time, and it finally happened. We thought it would be early on, but it was just a few weeks ago. I can remember when COVID was, they said March of 2020 or whatever. We shut down our church for 5 weeks, I'm going to say it was. And we did live stream only. If you're a musician and you're playing to a room with nobody in it, that's weird. It's just strange. But that was one of those things we adapted to and all that. But SWOT analysis help you figure out where you are, identify new opportunities. It can show you where you are and threats you don't know that you face. That's why we do them, especially why we do them in manufacturing. So how do you challenge your team? What are some of the things you guys do to challenge your team? How do you get them out of their comfort zone? And it seems odd that I would say that, I know. But I like to push our team way outside the box. I like to show them they can do anything they put their mind to. And I said I'm not harsh about it at all. I just tell them, we should do this. And a lot of times I know they think, he's crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy. The third one down here, this is my personal, I guess it'd be my personal motto. If you followed me on Facebook, Harrison can tell you this. This is me. Lose the negativity. Anything you do with your worship team, lose the negativity. Speak positive and constructively. My Facebook page is this way. You will never see me post something negative at all. Val's over there laughing, chuckling at me already. She knows me. I only talk about positive things. The world has enough negativity the way it is. Everybody sees negativity everywhere around them. So with the church band, I do the same thing. You know, when something isn't going right, Eric, who's, like I said, my greatest example, because he'll be like, man, I suck at this. I'm not any good. Dude, you're better than you think you are. You've got a killer voice. You're a great person. Our team looks to you for that focus that you've got, because he focuses on everything. I'm like, you are our guy. I mean, you are our voice. So I try and do that with everything. That's the one thing I think everybody loves the most, is they know they're not going to hear, boy, you guys suck today. No, I'm never going to tell you that. Even you can say that, Harrison. Even when something goes wrong, it's like, get it next time. You know, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for the fact that we're going to go out there, worship Jesus, and he's going to give us whatever we need. I like to give the band room to try new things. We've had some really interesting song requests in the last few years, and then we have some that are just, you would sit there and go, you're actually going to do this song in church? Yep, we sure are. Eric does a version of The Sound of Silence, to where we play it kind of like Disturbed does, but he has rewritten the entire lyric section, which is a struggle sometimes to get something like that done. And we have had nothing but positive comments about it, because it just pulls everybody right to where Jesus is at.
And he's the guy who struggles with confidence?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. He is a high school counselor, and he battles that. He has, I think, if I remember right, he said he was bullied early in his life, and he doesn't want to see anybody else that way. So he just is constantly, I'm just not good enough. I'm just not good enough. No, you're good enough, believe me. But the biggest thing to your worship teams, be Jesus to them. What I mean is show them grace and love them. That's what they need. It's what we all want, you know. So how did I challenge our team? I hope you guys find some of this stuff interesting, because it's fun. We came up with a praise band name. I'll get to that in a second. But I told them, I said, before when they did this, I said, take some ownership. You guys come up with a name. Say something. People say, you know, they have no idea. Most of the people in our church don't have any idea we actually had this. But we did. We do our rehearsal time limited to a minimum of every week. We do our rehearsals 90 minutes before the first service on Sundays. No other practice time during the week. It's you come in at 7:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock we go live. I always tell them, if you can get this done in 60 minutes, that's what we want. That way we can have time for tech team and everybody to talk. They do it. Before, our team would come in on a Monday night. Sometimes we'd start at 6:30, sometimes 7. I can tell you there were times we got out of there at 2 in the morning. And I'm like, 5 songs over 6.5 hours. And what I come to learn and just tell them, I'm like, my time is valuable. At the time when that was happening, our church didn't have a pastor, didn't have a worship leader. I was doing all that, plus running the church. Like, my time's valuable, and I still work a 40-hour-week job. So I'm like, here's what I want us to do. Here's the songs. Go home, learn them. Rehearsal is for tightening everything up. Listen to the music, do it. I really haven't had any pushback. I'm kind of surprised by that. But they do it. They go home and they'll come on Sunday morning. Yep, heard this, like this. This is my part. I found my part. Okay, great. Let's go. Sometimes we start 7:45, 8 o'clock, and can buzz through it in 30 minutes, and sounds great. They don't mind. Creating that one band mindset, not having the 2-band thing. You know, we are one group, and we love it. We've taken our praise worship team to other churches and events. and played for other groups. We actually get requests to do that occasionally. It's fun. It's just something different. Most fun we had, though, and you can't really see it. I don't know if you can turn the lights off back there. I challenged our team one night. I said, I'm going to book time at a recording studio. I want you guys to go and make an album. And they were like, there's no way we can do this. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. And we picked 8 songs that we do and went into a local community college and recorded an album. Took us 2 full weekends to do. And got to play with all the cool Pro Tools toys and all that stuff. But local community college, 45 miles away, offered up the time. I knew their engineer, the dean of the department actually, that does all this. And I said, what are you going to charge me? Because I knew at the time, years ago, $150 a studio hour. Okay, whatever. And he says, no. He says, I'll tell you what. He goes, will you let me use the master for whatever you guys, whatever you guys record? You let me use the master to teach my kids with. I said, sure. Why? He goes, well, they need something to work on. All right, so how much? No, it's free. This is free. He goes, we'll do all the recording, everything you want. It's just we want the masters to play with. Sure, sounds great. Didn't cost me a dime. So we spent some time there and did that. And then, let's see here, if it does this for me. That was what we came up with our band name. And I was like, okay, the Sent. Isaiah 6:8. Here I am, send me. That's who we are. So when we go out to play different events and stuff, people, they don't know, nobody really knows the band name, but we are God's messengers, and we go out and do some fun stuff. And so they put it up on Spotify and all that. We did this as a youth benefit for mission work. That was our big goal was, hey, let's sell a few albums at church. Maybe it'll get these kids to go on a mission trip. We sold, 150 copies at church. And then they put it on Spotify and all these other places. And our guys are like, I can't believe that you can go on Apple or Spotify and hear us. I'm like, you can. I mean, I don't ever do it, but you can. And they're like, I never would have thought I would have heard myself doing something like this. And their families are like, your church is really different. No, I just try and do something for them. Push them out of their comfort zone. Make them feel like they're worth it. I mean, my team's worth it. They do some really cool stuff. Never would have thought they would have. So this is the part where I want you guys to share any questions you've got. If there's something that really just burns, yeah.
Have you and your team written originals?
Not per se. No, not really. I mean, we've talked about it, but we haven't done any of that yet. And I would love to. My thing is just, I'm not good with words, so I would be able to come up with the music. The rest of it, I would be like, no, I want no part of that. I've wanted to look for people who are interested in doing that. I've talked with some people who do like rock or pop music, and they share stuff on the internet, and that's how they write, but I haven't been to that point yet. So, I'd love to. If anybody likes to do that, yeah, definitely see Harrison. He's got my business card. We can talk about that. I'd love to. So. Yeah.
Do you always do music and the kids recorded in if you tell your folks to go home and listen to it and pick out their parts? Is it always in the recorded key?
Okay, so yes and no. We do the recorded key. We give them that. We do struggle with that a little bit because there are times, Eric, our one singer, like I said, he doesn't have the high range, so he will drop things 3, 4, 5 keys. And you'll hear the girls go, there's no way I can sing that low. I'm like, yeah, I know. We just have to figure a way around it. Try to stay in the key that the record's in if we can. That's hard. And I've even noticed getting older, I'm 47, when I go play music, a lot of times now I don't even play in standard tuning. I drop a half a step because I'm like, I can't sing that high anymore. And I wish I could.
Well, what we find is even if praise team can sing it, the congregation can't.
That's a struggle too. Yeah. And it's crazy because some of the songs, they do the song sitting here and it's sitting here, and then all of a sudden now we're going to this power chorus or this bridge, and they're singing up here, and you see people out there go, what do you do? I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't make that work, but it is what it is. That's tough. Modern music's tough that way.
We call it the Tomlin two-step. You have to take it down 2 steps to be able to sing it.
Yes.
He's not the only one. But.
No. I'm trying to think of what the last song I sang was that was like, I'm singing along, this feels great, and then it's like, oh no, this is not good. We just need to.
Yeah, sometimes it's good until you get to the chorus.
Yeah. Like I said, Eric struggles when he gets to the top end, so like he's been trying to sing like the records, and I'm like, dude, if you can't get it, just sing here. Just don't worry about trying to put every single nuance in there. Inevitably, somebody in the congregation is probably going to hit it, and they're going to sing your part. That's great.
There
But
was that Michael W. Smith song. La, da, 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 send your grace over. What is that song? It goes in one key for two verses, and it jumps like 4 keys.
yeah,
In the last, it doesn't just modulate. It just goes to it goes like 4 steps higher, and we's like, no, we're going up a step.
yeah. Newsboys are that way too. We don't do much of their stuff because there's nobody that can sing it. I try, and yeah, I try. I'll put it that way. So what else? What else is just burning that you guys?
So for the better part of 20 years, our church had 2 teams, and just this past October, we sat everyone down and said, hey, there's been some shifts and changes in our staffing and in the things that we value, and so we're going to take these 2 separate pools of volunteers and make them one coherent team, and that has been really good. But a couple weeks ago, there were 2 or 3 people from one team who had played together for 25 years who said, man, I really miss playing with you. How do you kind of overcome that, the temptation to say, like, oh, you know what, we'll throw them a bone. We can put the old rhythm section together this week, but still maintaining that, like, hey, this is going to kind of be a rotating team, and things are going to change, and we're going to play with different people.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So where you've got people who've played together for a long time, and it just feels natural, feels like you're at home. Yeah, like I said, I play bass. My buddy Corey plays guitar. We had our keyboard player Mark from our band for a long time played with us, and they would come in, and we would get it's all pros, but I don't think a lot of people understand. Like, we can feed off each other. I mean, I can look at Corey now and just look at him and go, yeah, I know where we're going. And okay, we've tagged this and we're arguing somewhere else. I'm like, that's not on the page, but okay, here we go. It's hard because you have other people who are like, I don't know where they're going. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, throw them.
You only get that by playing with different people and understanding.
Yes.
You play with them half a dozen times before you start to understand, like, oh, that look means he's in trouble and has no idea where we're going. Versus, you know what I mean. So.
Yep. Drew, one of our drummers, he's 22 or 23. Most drummers, when they kick on the bass drum on a 4-beat thing, it's either they're playing the 4 counts or they're playing like that. As a bass player, I lock in almost instantly. It's like, okay, I know where he's going. He's playing 4 quarters, or he's playing, the other rhythm or whatever. And Drew plays backwards. It's, and I'm like, okay, I have to figure out where he's going. Anymore now, it's just so natural. I watch the bass drum for the first measure. I'm like, yep, I'm good. I know where I'm going. I don't have to worry about that rhythm. And people are like, you guys sound like you've been playing together forever. I'm like, yeah. Well, Drew was 12 when he first started playing with the church band. I've listened to him for that long. I know where he's going. Same goes for you when you play drums. I know where you're going. I can feel it. But it's just getting those people up there, get them that, and have the other people surround them and learn. Hey, you know what? You're going to learn something off these guys. They've done this forever. It's okay. Nothing to be scared of.
So you guys using like some backing tracks at all?
Click track, yes. I'd love to use backing tracks, but we haven't got that far yet. Thought about it. Matter of fact, think about it every week when we have like, hey, it's only 4 musicians on stage this week. I would love to have synth parts or whatever behind me, but the struggle was getting us to the click track first, because we had so many people who said, I can't take that in my ear. Well, we're just going to put it in the drummer's ears. When the drummer comes along and says, I don't like that, I can't play with that, it messes me up. And then it became, our keyboard player says, I want that in my ear. So we said, okay, we'll put it in. And then everybody says, we want it in our ears too. And I'm like, no, I don't know that you vocalists really do. And then we have one vocalist that when she sings half beat behind almost everything. And I'm like, nope, you're going to have that click track in your ear too. And now it's funny because she'd get to the end of a song and every song would be, I'm slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, end of the song. It's like, no, that thing is here. You're finishing out, slowing down, nope, 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 out. I said, there's where the song lies. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, you just need to be able to hear that and not slow down. And there's times where she'll tell us, it's too fast. I'm like, nope, this is exact what the recording is. I tap it out with that. This is where we're at. This is what we're going to do. If you want it slower, I can make it slower, but we're not going to really do that. But they all like it. They just, where's the click track at? Okay, here it is. Here we go. So.
Just to add to that, if you're thinking about that, and I've worked with a couple churches in Greece that their click is actually harder to learn on its own than it is to incorporate it with backing tracks. So when you got both of them, if you understand, if you're using in-ears, and a lot of churches aren't there, you've got wedges and monitors. We Lloyds that we bought the gear just before COVID hit, and so when we were shut down and we were coming in and doing nice, that's kind of when we just threw it all at them. But in my experience, the click track is kind of hard. I'm a drummer, we'd run it, and so many times I would just reach over and shut it off because they were off of it. And you got the backing track with the click built in, and you also have prompts in there. There's a bit of a learning curve, but if you give your team space to do that, it's actually easier than just learning the click.
And you can just do it during rehearsal and not on Sunday morning until you get used
Right.
to it too.
Yeah,
It's not like a thing where you have to go from we're not doing it to we're doing it
Yeah,
all the time.
there were 6 or 8 weeks where we introduced it and we only ran it during rehearsals. It's like, hey, it's a rehearsal tool for now, but it will be something that we introduce on Sundays, and it's helped us a lot. At the first month or two was like, I don't know how much I like that guy yelling in my ear the whole song. But now it's like we actually know where we're going and we know what the roadmap is because one, there's somebody telling us, but two, they know the layout of the song and know where we're headed. We're all on the same page, and it isn't like, oh, I thought we were going to bridge 2. Like, no, it's all very clearly spelled out. And they said we don't want to go without them. It's been really
We work together.
Is this the version where it tells you like chorus?
Yep.
No, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So our senior pastor, like I was the one who had to encourage that and push for the financing for that. And he didn't totally understand it, but a couple months in, I was standing in the back and the team was playing. He comes over and he goes, I love the tracks because the quality of our music stepped up.
Yep.
It challenged our musicians and stepped into it. Frequently he's like, I love these tracks. He's not a musician at all. Has no clue what they even sound like in our ears. But the quality of our music has stepped up. So
That's cool.
think about it.
That's cool. Yeah. So how many of you guys, musician-wise, how many of you guys are running in ears? Oh, okay. Couple? Okay. Awesome. Yeah, if you're running wedges, I don't know that this would work very well for you because you're going to hear that thing and the audience is going to hear it. But for me, I love having it there and I can hear, okay, here's the click. I know where we're going and there's no worry about it. Cool. What else? Nothing? I want to go back a little bit. I talked about auditions. I've got something, if you guys want it, I'll send it to you guys. I downloaded this PDF book years ago, and it's called Audition for Change. And it talks about how to audition band members. I'm going to give you a horror story and I'm sure you guys have all lived one of these. But this is the book. It didn't cost anything. And it's all in PDF form. But it talks about proven systems build successful worship teams. We struggled with that because when our church was founded, it was everybody can play, we need anybody we can get. And at the time, the vicar, or I don't know if it was vicar, deacon, church planner, had got our church started and was just looking for people. So anybody who had any kind of musical prowess whatsoever, he'd be like, come on, you need to be on the team. That led to years later, a lot of these people having issues with, well, I need to be out front singing. It's like, oh, this person's terrible. How do I tell them, you don't sing in key or in time? How do you do this? Well, he never auditioned anybody. He didn't feel the need to do that. This book has helped me tremendously because it gives you ideas and thoughts on how to audition a group. I will tell you just my personal thing, the first thing you need to do, they talk in here about sitting down with somebody. If I can find it here real quick. Yeah, there it is. Observation, conversation, integration. So your observation is your audition itself. I had a guy recently in the last 2 years that comes up and says, I play bass. I'm like, oh man, here's an answered prayer right here. I'm a bass player and I'm the only one. I need somebody else to take over for me. Like, so let's talk about it. Well, he provided some stuff and we went ahead with a couple songs. I said, come in, I'll bring in a drummer, guitar player. I want you to play bass, I'll play rhythm. And we'll sing a few songs. Sounded great. The guy, it sounded great. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, oh man, he's playing all right. Well, let's have a conversation about it. What's your prayer life like? Do you study your Bible? What's your favorite passage? What do you, when you do Bible study, what are you trying to get out of it? I ask all these questions. I want to know where you're at as a Christian before you even jump on the team, because I know everybody on my team and what they do. Where are you at in your journey with Jesus? And it was great. He was like, he told me all these things. I'm like, sounds great. Okay, well, let's find a way to get you in the band. Get him in the band, and first week he's learned all the music. It sounds great. I'm like, this is going to be a good fit. Week to week after that, I noticed slipping. I'm like, he's not quite on it like he was. I'm like, okay, well, he's got the music plenty ahead of time. I tell him all this, talk to him. And then one day he comes up and we open this song and he starts the entire song, first verse up to the chorus, doesn't play a single note. And I'm like, man, the bass is driving this song. I'm like, this is, where are you at? I just don't know the song. Okay, well, we're in rehearsal, so after we're done, go back and put your headphones on, listen to it real quick, because you're missing this huge section. And then he comes up to me after the first service and he says, how do you get to where you're at? Like, what do you mean? How do you get to doing what you do as a bass player? I said, I practice. I'm like, grab the bass at home, play. I said, but what I do mostly, I said, I will grab my AirPods or headphones or whatever. I will listen to a song over and over and over and over and over. I said, I'll become sick of it to where I don't even want to sing it anymore or play it. That's how I've done it for years. The one band I play with, when we get together to practice, it's a marathon. It's 5 hours, and you may learn 3 songs. You will go over every little bit you hear on a record, and it just drives me nuts. But you learn the song. I mean, it's what it is. I said, you don't have to be that bad, but practice. That's what I do. So that's it? Yeah, that's it. I listen and I practice it. So you're telling me that this is how you learn songs? Yes, Jake, it is how we do things. It's how I do things. Huh. Okay. He goes right away to our keyboard player. How do you learn this song? And how do you know what you're doing? And all the same questions he just asked me, and our keyboardist Celeste goes, well, this is what you do. And I catch it because I'm close by. She goes, Jake, can I ask you something? How much practice time do you do? Well, none. I don't practice at all. I'm sitting there going, I can tell. I can tell by what I'm hearing. And he asked her, he's like, can you give me lessons on how to do this? And she goes, it was the most straightforward answer I've ever heard, and I couldn't believe it. She says, why would I give you lessons when you won't practice on your own? I'm like, ooh, okay, that's glad for you. I'm glad you said that, because my thought was, man, how can you do what you're doing? I mean, as a drummer, as a bass player, as a keyboard player, as a singer, you've got to have time to do this. And for me, like I said, I just wear my ears out with that. I'm like, I'm going to pour this song into me over and over. And it was about 2 weeks later, he says, I'm going to take some time off. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I need to figure this stuff out and learn how to play this and do this. Okay. I haven't heard from him since. And I've reached out a couple times. He unfriended all of us on social media. And he's just like, I can't do that. And I'm like, man, just practice. Well, I get that we all have busy home lives. I do too. And it's even crazier now than it was then. But really, honestly, this process will help kind of weed some of that out. I mean, sometimes it won't. You'll have issues like that. But, observing people, having conversations, getting to know your team is a big thing. How many of you can name like some of the big things that have happened on your team in their personal lives, in the last year? Hopefully you're all tight enough with them like you can. Like my team, I know my keyboard player, her son just won a wrestling tournament last week. He's been in wrestling, this is his first year, and he like hasn't done anything, and all of a sudden, boom, he wins this tournament. And everybody on our thing was, congratulating him, like, man, we know everything about each other's lives. This is so crazy. They're like family to me. I hope that's that way with you guys. And that really is, I try and tell everybody, it's getting everybody to that point. But this book, like I said, if you guys want a copy of it, I'll send this to you. It talks about, like here, I'll give you this one. Observation. If you come up to me on Sunday morning, tell me it's your first Sunday at our church and you want to join the worship team, you're not getting a yes from me. Sounds harsh. I'm the same way. I took that to heart. You're getting a timing's not great for us right now. I'd love to talk to you in a few weeks, maybe a couple months. I and others on our team need to observe that you're committed to a few things. Sunday morning attendance, singing worship portion of the service, developing relationships with others. If you don't regularly attend the church on Sunday morning, you're not joining the worship team. Doesn't mean we require Sunday attendance. I know churches that do. But if you don't believe in the priority of Sunday morning, why would you be placed in a position of leadership during that time? I've had to kick people off of our team for some of this stuff. We had one we found out, a bass player a few years ago, who nobody knew. He was dating a gal, and they moved in together. And then one Sunday we go up, and I'm like, why is he serving communion? That doesn't seem right. That kind of goes against it. Yeah.
Do you have like not necessarily a contract, but like a covenant, and your expectations for your team members kind of spelled out?
No,
Your core values, or hey, this is the way that we expect you to behave and act online and in church, like those kinds of things.
No, we don't. That's a great idea, actually. I've thought about that because it might be good. Our keyboard player just came from a church where they did that to her and it's her family that was the worship team. Family's the biggest group of Christians I've ever met. I mean, if they were in this room right now, I know her dad and her mom so well, know them their whole lives. There would be no question. You know them. Oh yeah, those guys are model family. I mean, they do everything the way Jesus would have them pointed. And their pastor one day came up and said, instead of, we're changing the worship team, some of you are not going to be here anymore, he goes, here, I need you to sign this paper. And it's stating how you're going to live a Christian life and you're going to do this and that. And they were like, we've been here for 35 years. This isn't, you know me. And it's like, geez, everybody knows this family. I'm like, why did this come about? Well, his thing was, I want to change, and this is how I'm going to do it. And so they walked, and that's how I got Celeste as our keyboard player. And I'm like, I will never make you sign something, but you will know my expectation right away is I expect you to, the whole thing with the no negativity, be positive. It's the way we all are on our team. But you will know if you've done something wrong, because believe me, people say stuff right away. It's like, just don't do that stuff. I don't mind, if you put on there, hey, I watched the TV show Yellowstone, which I don't know if you guys watch Yellowstone, but they may say that, it's fine, whatever, but don't go and, this is how I live. Just model the Christian way. That's what we need. We all need to be like Jesus. We're all sinners. We're all broken. There's not a single one of us in this room, even here, that aren't that way. You know what his expectation would be of you. Don't disappoint Jesus. I mean, that's my thing. I try and do everything we do with the fact that Jesus is first. And our team, we don't have problems with it. I haven't seen any. Nobody said anything. I've been grateful for that. You had a question.
Yeah, I was thinking about how you balance this step one observation with the concept he was asking about, and you suggested maybe go poke around colleges or local areas, people you're trying to bring in to be part of the band.
Right. So with that's how I go and look around and find, who are these people that may be interested. You can do that and then bring them in and say, I want to talk to you about this. You've observed, maybe you go, this is bad. Let's go to a bar. We're saying we're going to a bar. Hey, look at that guy. He's a great guitar player. Maybe he'd be interested. Dig around, figure out who he is first. And say, then you can use step one as, well, I've watched you play. I understand how you play. You're probably going to know right away, is this guy going to pick up on something that we do pretty easily? Yeah. then bring them in for the conversation. Hey, the conversation's important. Find out who they are, what they do. It's hard because you've got two different worlds here, and you've got the world of we don't have anybody. How do we get somebody? If they're not there, or maybe they're there and they're just not saying I play, how do you get them engaged? How do you get somebody from the outside engaged and want to come do this? That's tough. And like I said, we're blessed. I mean, I know the town we live in isn't that big, but we have such great musicians in our town that I would think it would be easier in a bigger town, but I don't know. I just consider myself really blessed with who we've got.
But in a bigger town, you're gonna have more churches probably too. So you
That's true.
about the same number per church, presumably. you know?
That's true. And with us, we're lucky. We have 22,000 people. We have 5 LCMS churches in our town. And so we have Emmanuel Lutheran, which is the traditional one. And then years later, Peace Lutheran broke off, started their own church. We're going to be contemporary. And that was their big thing. So they're in the middle of town. Well, our church was planted off of Peace Lutheran Church because Peace wanted to be contemporary, but actually still do the same thing Emmanuel does. So here we are on the far side. We're playing, rock. It's like a rock concert, and people say, blended. Yeah. I mean, we're a rock concert.
You're rock.
We are a rock concert. Yeah, I forgot Val's over here. So you can tell us about Peace.
Peace was basically a plant from Emmanuel, and because they wanted to be more, they needed to grow more. They started out traditional, and I was there when we decided we were going to add contemporary, and it was like, oh my goodness, what? Rock bands, And so we actually became more blended. We did more of the back, songs. We have some of the more contemporary ones too. We do actually have, well, right now with COVID, one worship team, but we do have 2 worship teams. One's kind of the blended more, and the other one goes a little bit more rock, but still not 1C. We planted 1C.
Yep.
And everything, and he's right. When they first started, it was like, if you can play, you're in the band,
Yeah.
and everything. And they have made a lot of changes, a lot of growth, and but we all work well together. The two LCMS churches that are out in the country are both very traditional.
Yeah,
churches.
ultra traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. And that's the other thing is Corey preaches more of the contemporary style, unlike where Pat preaches the traditional. But yeah, so like our town has, if you want a certain style of worship, go over here, go over here, go over here. And we do work well together. I think it's pretty amazing because.
You don't hear a lot of, there's not any, except for maybe some of the old timers, but there's none of that hitting the heads against each other
Yeah.
at all. We really work together.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm going to let you guys out of here early, probably. I want to share one last thing if I figure out where my slideshow is. Where you at? You're going to let me do it? I didn't want to use the COVID thing like everybody seems to have been doing in their presentations. But remind you guys, like me, it's fun to reach out to other people and ask questions. You can ask me anything you want. You can send me all this stuff. This is my email address. That is a 1C church. It doesn't look like a 1. That's my cell phone number. You guys feel free to text me if you guys have any questions or you want anything. Yeah. Harrison, come here. You want to look and see if we can find a piece of paper?
I got you.
You got it? Ah, perfect. So Harrison's got notebook. If you want to write your email address down, I can send you all this stuff. Again, guys, just seriously, if there's any questions, throw it out there. Because, yep, you can give those out too if you want. He has business cards too if you guys want to get in touch. But just know you're not alone. You're loved. That's what they talked about the other night. We're all in this together. I know we don't all go to the same church, but I want to see your worship teams be just like ours. I mean, we're blessed. We're incredibly blessed. He'll tell you that. And music is, yep, we sure do. And music is supposed to be fun, and that's the one thing I think we forget sometimes. That we're so busy doing this and that. Even church music is fun, and I love what I do, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So.